Well, here we go again. One more time. Let me play the official startup music and then we'll be on our way. You are listening to KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, at 103.3 FM and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. And this is the Midnight Skeptic. The views of the Midnight Skeptic are not, repeat, not necessarily the views of KPCA or any of its affiliates. But I've got to make an addendum to that. My views, the views of the Midnight Skeptic, should be the views of PCA and KPCA and its affiliates and all right-thinking people out there that happen to be listening to this show. Okay, one quick adjustment to the microphone here. Excuse me. Okay. This is Midnight Skeptic show number 27 of the new regime when I started also putting these out on YouTube. And it's going to be broadcast on KPCA LP 103.3 FM to Sonoma County, around the Petaluma area. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, that was Nick. He rents a bedroom upstairs. And anyway, interesting guy. He doesn't have that difficult of a accent. I can understand him. I've learned to understand him. Okay, and this is going to be broadcast on the 11th of July, this coming Sunday, at the usual times, 9 p.m. That's past meridian for all you geeks out there. Okay, time for the shout-outs. I'm going to go through this rather quickly because the Midnight Skeptic is not playing Mr. Goodbar anymore with religions. This is going to be a show mainly about religions with a few other things sprinkled in. And it's not going to be good for religion. So anyway, Stan and Kathy Gustafson. Stan, I'll see you on the 17th of this month for our Live Fest and Riskathon. Rich and Kathy Berger. Likewise, Rich, I will see you on Saturday the 17th. The East Coast people. Geraldine Goldfinger out on Long Island, hit our doctor, David Rubin in the Raleigh-Durham area, and Hurricane Elsa has just gone right over the Raleigh-Durham area, and he emailed me back. I emailed him seeing if he was okay. He emailed me back about 2 hours ago and said that the rain was kind of letting up. Okay, Nelson and Alice Lydell. Down in Sarasota, Florida, he emailed me with a frantic message saying, "We're all going to die." That's his kind of humor. I completely approve. The Arizona people, my brother Brandon and my niece Andrea, who's still working in a hospital down there. And I understand that Arizona has a new and improved outbreak of the new strain of coronavirus. But anyway, I wish you well. Okay, the local people, Tom and Nancy Throw, in case they're listening, Tim Conrad, ex-Sonora High, who is a photographer down here living in Petaluma. The Sonora people, I enjoyed my visit with you guys last weekend, Bob and Sandy Fisher, Robert and Colleen Finnegan, Brad and Martha the nurse also. Take care of that knee. Keep on desk duty as long as you can do it. And the the Sacramento people, Dave and Rosie Takacs. That's a Hungarian name. That was my wife's maiden name. And Mickey Huff, who just recently moved up to the Sacramento area, and he is commuting from there down to Diablo Valley College, where he is a history professor. I think the classes are out now, but he's also the godfather of Project Censored. Oh, and down in Arizona also, Karina Hilliard, my very, very, very favorite snake removal technician. Okay. I changed my shirt to the one that I usually wear that's pictured on my business cards, and a lucrative business this is, I might say. And also the picture on my Facebook messages announcing, when I'm going to do this madness. And so those of you who follow the Midnight Skeptic will know that this is what I wear when I intend to get serious. Okay. I've said before on shows that I really don't like being angry all the time, but religion, I used to just not pay any attention to it, but, aspects of it, especially now that they have infiltrated and now control the Republican Party. It makes me angry. I will be going into all of that. And as I've said on a couple of shows, I think I even mentioned it on the last show, I am realistically an atheist. However, I'm also a member of the Skeptic community, a member of the North Bay Skeptics and the Bay Area Skeptics. I've attended some of their meetings. I haven't been in a long, long time, but if I'm a real skeptic, they are responsive to evidence. And if there were evidence presented to me of the existence of God, I would change my mind, but I'm not holding my breath for that. Anyhow, on to the meat, so to speak, of this show. Okay, there's a guy in Idaho. His name is George Ricks, Ricks, and his case has gone all the way up to the Supreme Court, and this is a story from Reuters, the news gathering outfit. What his problem? Well, okay, the case is Ricks versus Idaho Board of Contractors. And he's a contractor, carpenter, plumber, whatever. I don't know if he's a general contractor. It just said he's a contractor. Okay, in order to get his license in Idaho, you have to submit, among other many things, your Social Security number. Well, he objected to this. Okay, and the reasons he's giving are just laughable, ludicrous, based in stupid-ass religion. Okay, he says, first of all, let me back up just a bit. The Idaho Board of Contractors can just look up his Social Security number. There's a number of sources that they could get it if they need it, and apparently they do. But he refuses to give it to him himself because of his sincerely held religious beliefs. And this is a quote from him. The Social Security number is, quote, the number of the two-horned beast. Well, who else could that be except in his mind, the two-horned beast is the devil. Okay. Aiding him in his legal fight is the Beckett Fund for Religious Liberty. And they're headquartered in Washington, D.C., and they're a bunch of fundamentalist Christian lawyers, I would assume. And they come to the aid of people that object to things as a result of their sincerely held religious beliefs. Mm, mm, mm. Okay, enough of that stupidity. Grow up, Texas. The Bob Bullock Texas State History Museum in Austin, Texas. Austin, by the way, is just a little bit of sanity in the midst of a red state, conservative Texas. They're kind of like Berkeley in Texas. Okay. They canceled an event scheduled for today, the 8th of July, at the museum, featuring the authors. That means book writers for all you Texans out there. Featuring authors of a new book on the Alamo and its role in the mythology of Texas. Okay, the title of this book, and I would encourage all my listeners out there, all my thousands and thousands of listeners, to go out and buy this book. It's Forget the Alamo, The Rise and Fall of an American Myth. Okay, the event was canceled by those notorious snowflake board members. And who's on the board of directors of the Bob Bullock Texas State History Museum? Well, Governor Greg Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and Speaker of the Texas Senate, Dade Phelan. Republicans all. I mean, Democrats are not into cancel culture, despite Republicans claiming that Democrats are. Okay, and not just Republicans, but they're fairly right-wing Republicans. And I thought right-wing Trumper Republicans were against cancel culture. Well, here they are canceling something that, they can't put up with somebody puncturing the balloons of these Texas myths of, rugged individualism and pull yourself up by your bootstraps and all of that kind of hooey. Okay. Anyway, grow up, Texas. All right. And I promised on my Facebook stream announcing these shows that I am going to come up with some good news. Well, I am a man of my word. Here's the first one. Okay. A 4-year study in Iceland from 2015 to 2019 found that reducing the work week from 40 hours to about 35 or 36 hours with the same pay. First of all, Republicans would never go for that here. It didn't affect productivity and increased workers' well-being. Is it my eyes? Yes, that's part of it. But my handwriting is also part of it. I have to pause and consult my voluminous notes here. Okay. Anyway, workers felt better about themselves when they worked just a bit less, and they found ways to maintain their productivity. And it increased their workers' well-being, their happiness, and reduced stress in the workplace. Today, March 8th, July 8th. Damn, what month is it, Dave? Today, about 86% of the entire workforce of Iceland works a shorter work week. So that's good news. Will we be trying that out here in this country? Not anytime soon, not unless there is a definite decrease in the number of Republicans in the government. If you're getting the hint that I don't like Republicans, for the most part, I don't. What they've become today is a Trump cult. Okay, and I'm saying that as a still registered Republican. and I'm sorry for that, but I still am. It's just sheer laziness that I haven't gone down and changed my registration. If there were a semi-popular Democratic Socialist Party available, I'd register as that. But when I first voted, and at the time I registered to vote for the very first time, you had to be 21. Okay, well, I was still in the Navy at that time, and this was back in the mid-'60s. And at that time, I really appreciated the Republican Party's stands on various issues, and I was a bit suspicious of the Democratic Party. I fell into the trap of hearing over and over and over again the Democrats just give people free things in order to buy their votes. Okay, I've evolved since then. I mean, I needed to evolve. And I'm still evolving. Not that I'm ever going to go back to the Republican Party, but just social things, racial things, gender issues. I've evolved in a good way, I think. Okay. More good news here. I better get on with this. A San Francisco startup called Wild Type, WILDTYPE, since 2016 is producing salmon grown in a lab. It hopes to eventually produce enough fish to be sold in stores and restaurants, like sushi bars, restaurants. They are seeking FDA approval for their cell-based agricultural company. Okay. The salmon cells taken from live fish are put in a big vat. I haven't gone down there to actually see their operation. They're in Cow Hollow in San Francisco, and I fully intend to go down there and check them out. They invite people to see their operation, but they encourage most people to be store owners or restaurateurs. I think the Midnight Skeptic can sneak into that group. Okay, the salmon cells are fed nutrients in a large tank, and as the cells divide and multiply, they are harvested and then affixed to a plant-based structure to enable the cells to grow into a particular cut of salmon, like salmon steaks, for instance. This process takes 1 or 2 months. Conventional fish farming, and salmon are farmed. There's a few salmon farms up in off the coast of Oregon and Washington. Okay, that method takes a year or more before the salmon are harvested. Excuse me, YouTube people can see me doing this, but I'm taking a sip of coffee now. Okay. Unlike meats from Impossible Foods and Beyond Beef, which are really taking off, Burger King is one of their main customers, which they're plant-based. They're not lab-grown meat cells. Meat grown from meat cells has not yet gotten FDA approval. It's all just around the corner, though. Costs to do this, which right now are kind of expensive, are also coming down as the methods are perfected. Soon, environmental impacts of beef cattle raising and salmon fishing and farming will be a thing of the past. On the next show, I just ran across this article 2 days ago about the coming innovations and spreading of hydroponic farming for vegetables. I'm going to be doing a segment on the show about them. Okay. There's more good news. Okay, real good news. In 2009, Colorado, the state of Colorado, um, began offering teen girls free IUDs. And that stands for intrauterine devices. It's a birth control method. Totally disdained and classified as sin by the Catholic Church, of course. And they can give it to them. The girls can get these IUDs without parental consent. That was one of the big things. Within 8 years, beginning in 2009 and ending in, 9 plus 8, 17, 2017, abortion rates fell by 64%. For every $1 spent on the program, the state saved $5.85 in labor and delivery costs, child's care assistance, and food stamps. Republicans don't want to give anybody food stamps anyway. They would do away with that program if they could. There is a reasonable and logical way to lower abortion rates. Of course, they would rather just threaten, these are the Republicans, they would just rather threaten and imprison and use the stick, not the carrots. That's the Republican way. Okay, all of this is due to a grant from billionaire Warren Buffett's family. Colorado spent $28 million during 8 years supplying the IUDs to 75 public health clinics throughout the state. Several of these clinics were located in high schools. The 8-year grant is gone. Now, in 2017, it went away. But Colorado lawmakers increased funding for the family planning program by $2.5 million per year. Plus, Colorado health clinics have received more Medicare funding because of the ACA, better known as Obamacare. Republicans would never go for this. I'm sure Republicans hated this. Okay. That's the good news that I promised you guys. And, all right. There was a segment that I started on a show, on my shows, about 3 or 4 shows ago called Ignorant Creeps Update, where I focused on a particular person, usually a Republican, usually a conservative Republican, and just said what they said, really, and that's enough to make them creeps. Okay, I'm not going to do that one anymore. It just gotten way too personal. I'm going after the whole Republican Party now. And this new segment will be entitled Republican Hate News. Okay, there's plenty of it. I am never going to run out of material to talk about Republican hate news. Arkansas, the state legislature passed a bill to allow EMTs, emergency medical techs, and doctors to refuse to treat LGBTQ people. Based on, wait for it, here it comes, sincerely held religious beliefs. Okay, it's Arkansas Senate Bill 289, and it seeks to give medical workers a right to refuse providing health care to someone because of the worker's religious, moral, or ethical beliefs. That's directly from the bill, in quotes. Religious, moral, or ethical beliefs. Okay. Republicans There's an outfit, the Southern Poverty Law Center. They have a group of workers with them that uh, concentrate on researching hate groups, and then they make a list of them periodically about, like the Proud Boys and the Three Percenters and the Oath Keepers and all those creeps. They have been designated as hate groups. If they were consistent in their criteria, they would designate the Republican Party as it is now, a Trump cult. They would designate them as a hate group. I've never seen anything to dissuade me from the notion that Republicans just hate poor people. I'm sorry, not all people. Maybe some of them hate all people, but anyway. Second part of this Republican hate news: Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, of course he's a Republican, has just signed a bill similar to the one in Arkansas that would allow doctors, hospitals, insurance companies, and other healthcare professionals to deny services if they have an objection based on, and again I'm quoting, moral, ethical, or religious beliefs. It was a provision sneaked into, now that's my word, a 700-page Ohio budget bill. And here's a quote: allows the religious freedom to decline to perform health care services. Oh boy. The Republican Party used to be, until, I don't know, the last 20 years or so, a legitimate opposition party to the Democratic Party. And it's gone off the rails. It's just not that anymore. It's just, well, they're just a hate group now. Okay, let's see. Okay, here's a little tidbit that I ran across, and Sonora High School is my alma mater. I consider it that, although I did not graduate from there. My family moved down to Carmichael, and I actually went to La Sierra High School, which closed down as a high school. It's now a community center, but occasionally we'll have reunions of one sort or another there. And so, but I rarely go to them because I was there for 1 year, my senior year. Anyway, Carmichael, California. Okay. Idiocy news. Pet psychic Bill Guilfoyle, and I'll spell the last name for you in case one of you or a bunch of you want to go out and hire this guy. Last name, capital Kilfoyle, of Carmichael, California. That's near Sacramento. He says, quote, I tune into their spirit to solve pet behavioral problems. And another quote, I use the mind's eye, meaning his mind's eye, to look at and converse with the spirit of the animal. I get a mental picture of what their spirit looks like. Well, it's too stupid for the Sacramento Skeptic Society to bother with, but if they have some spare time, and if any of you Sacramento area skeptics happen to be listening to this, Michigas, go check this guy out. He's making a living off of pet owners that have some worries about their little foofy or Fido or, something's, they're pooping in the wrong place or something. They hire this guy. I assume he's making a living at it. Okay. All right. Now to the real meat of this show. Okay, I've said on many past shows that I'm non-religious, probably an atheist, but since I'm a member of the Skeptics, in good standing, I have to be open to evidence of the existence of God. So that, I guess, makes me officially an agnostic. The main reason for my anti-religion feelings, other than no evidence of anything that they say in their holy books, is, and this is my sincere belief, all religions are misogynistic, detrimental to humanity in general, but particularly to women. That's what I'll be concentrating on this show. So here's an admittedly incomplete listing of them. There's far more religions that I can possibly listen here, but I have not run across any of them, even some of the obscure ones that are not misogynistic. So, and my gripes about them, specifically the more orthodox version of these religions and uncompromising factions within each, are, and they'll never say this, but they are in fact and in practice anti-women. Okay. The first one I'm going to mention, and it's so obvious, is the Islamic religion. Okay. If there are any Islamic fundamentalists / terrorists out there that happen to be listening to this, I am going to mock the Quran. I am going to mock Allah. I'm going to mock your religion in general. So if you want to grab your AK-47 and come after me, well, here I am. Okay, the Taliban in Afghanistan. I'm of mixed feelings about the United States withdrawing its troops from Afghanistan. Yes, we've been at it over there for 20 years. Yes, the country is getting tired of this, as am I. We've lost way too many soldiers, airmen, Marines over there. We shouldn't have to lose any more. However, once we do leave, and I heard on the radio just as I was coming back from the market, that the new deadline is August 31st. This is from the Biden administration. And time check. The YouTube people can see me kind of leaning over and looking at the time I have left. I've got enough time for this. Anyway, what we are going to do when we fully remove our troops, except for a little 600-man contingent that will protect our embassy over there and maybe some other embassies. I don't know. But we are giving this country over to the Taliban, and these are the hideous people of the Islamic faith. They throw acid into the faces of young girls that just want to go to school. They are these same people that shot Malala Yousafzai. And she's, out of college now, and she's living over in London. She can't go back to, well, actually, she's from Pakistan, but there was a faction of the Taliban over there in Pakistan, And that's where they run to, or they did run to when they were being chased by our troops over there. Okay. Uh, it, countries that are controlled by fundamentalist Islamic people, politicians, are worse than states that are controlled by Republicans, and that's saying quite a bit. Remember the Charlie Hebdo massacre of some journalists in Paris, France? They were killed for Charlie Hebdo's a magazine over in France, kind of a sort of a humor magazine. But anyway, they published some cartoons depicting Allah or Muhammad. I guess it was actually Muhammad. Islamic terrorists out there who might want to come after me. If I haven't done enough already, I'll gladly draw some cartoons depicting the Prophet Muhammad, if that would make you even madder at me. But okay, they are all anti-LGBTQ. It's a death penalty in some of the Islamically run countries, and in Afghanistan specifically, this is going to be difficult, but there is a cultural practice called bacha bazi, and it's not specifically mentioned in the Quran, and it's as much a cultural phenomenon as it is a religious phenomenon. However, the Islamic mullahs over there do not crack down on this practice. Okay, what is bacha bazi? Okay. Have any of you seen the movie or read the book, The Kite Runner? The book Kite Runner, I would highly recommend you guys to read it out there. It's the Pashtun people specifically, and that ethnic group straddles Afghanistan and Pakistan. They're a fairly sizable ethnic group. Okay, bacha bazi, getting back to that. Young dancing boys available for sex from adult Islamic men. And there was a quote from one of these guys who participates in the bacha bazi ritual. Women are for children, boys are for pleasure. And that's a difficult thing to say, especially over the air, but it was said, and it is part of their belief system of this specific Pashtun ethnic group. And it is not, to my way of thinking, sufficiently discouraged by the Islamic religion. Okay, Catholicism is the personification of patriarchy. Going into the priesthood, you have to take a vows of celibacy, and that doesn't mean they follow them. There have been plenty of altar boys made the sex toy of many, many priests and cardinals and bishops and the hierarchy. There are no females in the leadership of the Catholic Church. And Catholics will say, well, there's female leaders of the groups of nuns, these religious orders, these oblates. Well, tough. Too bad. I will stop hating the Catholic Church when the first female pope is ordained or elected, or black smoke given out of the papal chimney, whatever it is. And I hate to use the word hate because I don't like to hate things, not even them, but it's the word that comes the closest to how I actually feel about the Catholic Church and all of its faults. Okay, Baptists, men only as pastors. Now, there's factions within the Baptist Church ranging from conservative to relatively liberal. These are the cultists that have become the base of the Republican Party. There's a lot to the base of the Republican Party, including the QAnon believers, the Fox News watchers, and Baptists. Okay. Men only as pastors. And how can I say that? Well, I'm going to give you some quotes. And they're anti-feminism. That's one of the, 7 deadly sins that they preach against. Okay, here's a quote. And it's Albert Mehler, Mehler. He's the president of the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. Quote, "There's just something about the order of creation that means that God intends for the preaching voice to be a male voice." Okay, here's another quote from a woman, no less. And her name is Beth Moore, Moore. She's kind of a, in Baptist circles, kind of a rock star, I guess. She's this is how she's identified and where I got this quote: a Southern Baptist Bible teacher, whatever that means. She's certainly not in any way going to be the president of the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. But anyway, here's her quote. "For a woman to teach and preach to adult men is to," are you hanging on to something? "Is to defy God's word and God's design." Okay. And also, lest you think that pedophilia is only relegated to the Catholic hierarchy and this particular cultural phenomenon in Islamic religion, there's plenty of pedophilia going on in Baptist churches. I'm not going to go into them all. I have run across them, and maybe on an upcoming show I will list them all that I can gather together. Okay. Mormonism. Okay. People know about the origins of Mormonism, and they originated from upstate New York, and the golden tablets, whatever they are. Okay, and all of that kind of BS. They were originally polygamous, but through their trials and tribulations as they escaped from town to town because they pissed off the local community there, they eventually fled to the Salt Lake City area, and their population grew enough to where they applied to the United States government to become a state. Well, the federal government wouldn't hear of it unless they changed their polygamous ways. Well, okay, they did. To hell with what God told us to do. If it stands in the way of us becoming a state, well, we'll quit. Okay, now that's not the end of it. There's a number of ultra-Orthodox Mormon breakaway groups that are down on that border between Utah and New Mexico, and I guess parts of Arizona as well, where they practice polygamy. The elders back in Salt Lake City have not really done anything about it. because I think in their heart of hearts they still believe in polygamous ways and child brides, you know, 12, 13, 14-year-old girls given to their uncles as a bride in return for one of the uncle's wives going into cousin's harem. Okay, one big problem that has received some notice in the press, there's a phenomenon, well, if all these guys have a bunch of wives in their harems, well, what about the young girls that are birthed and come up? I mean, when do they become eligible to become wives of these men? Okay, I don't know what the ruling, if any, is about that. However, roughly about half of the babies born are boys. Well, what are they? Not every male can have 4 or 5 or a dozen wives. What do they do with the boys? Well, they are driven out. Most of them are driven out. And these young boys are out on their own. Homeless, most of them. If some of them might have some connections with local communities, they'll get a job. And I ran across an article, and this was about a year ago, about the lost boys of Mormonism. I will devote a segment of that, a segment of my show on that very topic in an upcoming show. I just don't have the time to go into it now, but Mormonism is not exactly the fount of feminism, shall we say. And also they are anti-LGBTQ, of course, because God told them to be that way. Okay, it sounds like I'm picking on the Islamic religion and Christianity in its various forms. However, Hinduism is a very paternalistic religion, and anti-women, as far as I can read. Now, there are certain villages and societies within India. It's a very complex society over there, where matriarchy is the norm. They decide who inherits what and what daughter marries who and all that. And other ones are patriarchal. So I can't make a blanket statement that all Hindus are patriarchy. So I don't know how it breaks down, but a lot of Hinduism is anti-women. Menstruating women, which is something that happens like clockwork once a month, they are considered unclean and unworthy of going into a temple to either pray or whatever you do in a Hindu temple. And fathers own their daughters, and there's no law in India stating that fathers do in fact own their daughters, but it is up to the father to give their daughters away in arranged marriages. Now, our wedding ceremony, our traditional wedding ceremony, celebrates that anachronistic habit. What's the word I'm looking for? Another brain freeze. Where fathers give away their daughters at the altar. Well, I think that should be done away with, but it's alive and well and thriving in Hinduism. Arranged marriages. Okay. A woman, okay, this is a quote from one of the Upanishads. Quote, "A woman can choose her own husband after attaining maturity," whenever that is, "if her parents are unable to find a deserving groom." And in Hinduism, traditionally, women were not priests, but some are getting trained in offering rituals, helping with rituals. Well, okay. It's like the Catholic Church. You're never going to see a woman priest attain any high place in any of the Hindu temples. Okay, enough of that. Judaism, and I just found this out relatively recently, and it's horrible. It's horrible, and it's a practice in this group of ultra-Orthodox Jews, and they're called the Haredi. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Haredi, or Haredim is the plural of it. They put their wives in these black burqas, just like the women over in Afghanistan are going to have to do as soon as the Taliban takes over. And this word modesty in some text of Judaism. These brain freezes. Okay, what's the Jewish text? The 5 books of the Bible. Oh, geez. Anyway, I can't remember it. It'll pop into my head probably tomorrow. Okay. They use the word modesty, and women should be modest. On the face of it, there's nothing wrong with that. But these Haredi have interpreted that to mean that the women should wear a burqa-style covering of her entire body with a little veil between her eyes and the outside world. Not that she can go into the outside world very often. It's called a shal, S-H-A-L. And I guess that's partly where our term shawl, S-H-A-W-L, comes from. And it's also called a frumka. They're rarely, the wives I'm talking about, are rarely allowed to leave the home. But when they do, I guess they have to go to the market once in a while. They must be accompanied by their female children, who are also covered head to toe in frumkas. Now, I saw a picture of them. This lady pushing a stroller of some sort, and beside her was walking, apparently, one of her daughters. But in the stroller itself, a kid who wasn't able to walk yet or wasn't old enough to walk, also covered by this black heavy covering. I assume it was a female toddler in this stroller. Okay. A Haredi woman interviewed said that she was, quote, saving men from themselves. And she said, she went on, a man who sees a woman's body is sexually aroused, and this might cause him to commit sin. Not even physically committing any sin, like rape, for instance. Impure thoughts are sin in themselves. Do you remember this Playboy interview with ex-President Carter? I think when he was a president, or shortly after he left office, where the word sin came up, and he said, in my mind I have committed sins. And it was referring to looking at pictures of, nice looking women or nude women or whatever. But that sort of attitude has seeped over into Christianity. Okay, for the worse. Israel has charged many of these Haredi with child abuse and neglect. They're anti-vaxxers, of course, because they don't want to see doctors, meaning Western doctors, or go to hospitals where the female body or her children's bodies might be viewed by rational medical providers. Okay. Ridiculousness. Okay. Another Haredi sect is the Lev Tahor, led by Israeli-Canadian Rabbi Shlomo Hilbrans. Okay. And I know, okay, enough of the Jew bashing for a while. I know that this is kind of cherry picking. I'm aware of that. The Jewish religion, there are various sects within it, and there are very liberal wings of the Jewish religion, very conservative, and then also ultra-Orthodox. Well, the ultra-Orthodox over in Israel have influence over the government all out of proportion to their numbers. They're actually, comparatively, not that many ultra-Orthodox Jews over there, but their population is increasing almost exponentially. Okay. Ew, I'm getting close to it. Buddhism. In Buddhist texts that states, women are obstructors of men's spiritual progress. And this is a quote from Buddha. Now, I don't know whether he actually said this, but it's in Buddhist writings of the sayings of Buddha. Okay. It is, quote, it is better for you to have put your manhood, and I assume he means penis, in the mouth of a venomous snake or a pit of burning charcoal than into a woman. Okay. So I don't have time to go really into more anti-Buddhism rants, but all of this convinces me that all religions are misogynistic and anti-women, with the possible exception of the Wiccan religion, and I don't know enough about that or anything about that to make any comments about it. But anyway, it's time for the play out music. You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California. And we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, think critically, think logically, but live joyously, and most importantly, pet your cats. Okay, real quick, if any of you out there want to tell me to go to hell or tell me that I'm full of SHIT, send me an email. The Midnight Skeptic, all one word, at gmail.com. Please do it. I welcome your comments or suggestions for future shows. Okay?